So we can, so we can start today's questions, today's session. So if you have any question from what we've done so far, so good, I mean in previous sessions, please ask me if you can on the chat now. If you can't, you can always send me a DM on Discord or even post it on the general chat and you will get answers to your questions. Okay. So we started out with introduction to Power BI, covered that, and went to connecting to data sources. We can actually connect to several hundreds of sources with Power BI, same as Tableau, but we were only able to implement with CSV or Excel. And yeah, most of the time, these are the popular ones you can always connect to, or SQL. But we didn't connect to SQL because we are not learning SQL yet. So we just connected to Excel, CSV. So I shared the data in that class. So if you are watching the video all over again, please, when you get to that part where you need the link to the video, just ask on the group. Okay, then someone will post it. It has already been posted, but you might miss the message. So just ask on the group and I'll post the link to the database, the data that we are using. Then in the first session, we're able to, connect all our tables. We call them tables here. You can call them data as well, but call them tables. We uploaded them into our Power BI. I think I need to run Power BI now. So we uploaded them into our Power BI, and and then we're able to do some transformation to some of the tables, so as necessary. So it's not all the time you do transformation. It's if you feel you need to transform some data. So why do you need to transform? Sometimes you might have missing columns, missing rows, right? Missing values or missing cells. Sometimes you might need to change some things, right? Quite a number of reasons why you need to transform. So it's really an important part of your whole process. So that's transformation. That's the T here. This E stands for extraction. Of course, when you say you extract, you are trying to bring out something from somewhere, right? So that's like connecting. Then transformation, you modify, you do all of these things. When you're watching the video, you definitely understand what we mean by transformation. Then we have the loading. So after transforming, the next thing is for you to load it into your Power BI. So this is what Power BI looks like in case you are joining us for the first time, or let me say in case let me open like a new one so you don't get so in case you are seeing this for the first time. So this is how Power BI looks like. Really good environment. So blank like this. Okay, so just watch the videos. We talked about all of these views and what they are all about and what are you. Okay, so I close. So after loading your Power BI, your data, so you have all your tables here. So they call them tables, like I said. So these are all the tables that we have, data, right? So this is like a calendar table. That is the name of this table. This is customers table. You can see the data in it. This is product categories. This is product subcategories. This is product returns. So there are different tables. They represent different information. Okay. So that's that. Then, sorry, before I go further, it is what pointing you that in Power BI, we have what we call Power Query. Okay. So this is where you do your transformation. Okay, because if you check your Power BI here now, you cannot edit anything here. It's not like Excel that, okay, if you double click, you can maybe, write formulas, or, you can maybe change this, in Excel. If you are very familiar with Excel, you know what I'm saying. So you can't do that here. So the only place you can do that is what we know as Power Query. So Power Query is like the transformation, just to put it simply for you. It's like the transformation area, right, for your Power BI. We actually have Power Query in Excel too, right? For those of us that have used Power Pivoting, just the same thing. They are built on the same engine. So that's it. So this is where we do those transformations that I talked about. If you watch the video, you will see everything. how to do conditional, all of these things, and what have you. So please just ensure to, I'm just trying to walk you through so you see that it's really something interesting. Okay. So now after loading the data, you have the data here. So this is your report view. Okay. Then this is your data view. This is where you have all your tables and everything. Then this is your model view. So the model view is what I was trying to talk about in the pre-class that we had, talking about data modeling. Okay, so just a quick recap. So data modeling is basically connecting, simply put, connecting your data. Okay, so there are reasons why we need to have our data separated. All of these things have been explained. Okay, when you're watching the videos, you would find it there. What we call data normalization. Okay, there are reasons why you need to have your data scattered like this. Of course, you can always put this data in one place, but there's a reason why you need to have it separated like this. It's called data normalization. Okay, so some of these terms are not there for you to just see and ignore. In fact, I give assignments for these things, and the only reason I'm giving assignment is I just want you to have them close to your lips. These are terms that you are going to be saying in your interviews that really show them you know what you are talking about. And that's why I give this assignment. I gave assignment on keys, on tables and all of that, because it's really important for sure. And I gave assignment on normalization, what we mean by data normalization and all of that. And the only reason for that assignment, not I want to punish anybody, but I just want you to have it handy with you. Like you can always tell us what it's all about. So when you're also highlighting in your interviewing process, these are things that you need to mention, even without them asking, to let them know that, oh, you know what you're saying. And like I said, when you use terms like this, you can always expect questions for them. Okay. All right. So this is the model view. This is basically, you can see we have a relationship between, you can see these lines connecting these tables together. Okay. So if we check this one now, this is connecting this is connecting this. All of how we came about this, we've discussed that I think in the last class. So you can always check it out. And we talked about the types of relationship we have. This is star relationship, I explained. And we also have snowflake, right? Just the one I mentioned when we were doing the pre-class as well. Why do we use snowflake? Why do we use star? Everything has been mentioned. So I'm just preparing your mind to, for those of us who are joining for the first time, when you're watching the videos, it's really going to be interesting. It's not really complicated stuff, really easy stuff that you can grab. Okay. So now after modeling, as you can see here, the next thing for you is literally your visualization. Okay. So, but in Power BI, there's what we call Dax functions. Okay. So just like in Excel, sorry, I always make reference to Excel. I would always make reference to Excel. So just like in Excel, we have formulas, right? You can always write formulas when you want to do pivot table, for instance, and all of that. So similarly, we have these Dax functions to help us with computations. I don't know who's what can hear that noise. Okay. To help us with computations. Okay. So last week we started out with Dax functions. Right before we go to our visualization, we've not started visualization. We only started out with introduction to Dax, and we tried to see how it looks like. Okay. So Dax is just like the way you write formulas in Excel. Simply. Okay. So yes, last week I showed us two terms that are common in Power BI, even in Tableau as well. But here we call them calculated column and measures. Okay, so we call them calculated column and measures. And I explained explicitly the difference between them using DAX. That was our first DAX experience last week. To go into it again, we really take our time. So how do I do this? Okay, I can just do a brief of the recap of what's all about. Then from there we'll move deeper into our DAX. Okay, proper. So any question at this point before we continue? Okay, no. All right, so you can see that our tables are accessible on either the report view, you can see all our tables here, or the data view, we still have all our tables here, or the model view, we still have all our tables here. So that's that. Now, we are not doing visualization yet. We just want to write some Dax functions. Okay, that's where we stopped last week. And last week we did some for, I think we did, this was written with Dax. Yeah, so this is the Dax function. So for those of us that have used Excel before, you agree with me that this is just similar with Excel functions, right? If you open Excel now and you try to write this conditional, those with Python conditional statements, right? So like if a condition is met, then do this. Otherwise, with Python it probably be elif or something like that. But here it's just called nested if. So if this condition is not met, now you said if this is less than 3,500. So let me explain what is happening here. So in our this customers table, this is customers table. This is it. So in our customers table, we have a column called annual column. Annual income, I beg your pardon. Annual income. So you can see it ranges 70,000. If you scroll down, this is 40,000, 90,000, 80,000, and what have you. We have a lot of them. We have about 148 rows here. So now what we are doing basically in this thing is saying if this amount that you have here, if it is less than 35,000, then in this new row we are creating, in this new column we are creating, call it low. So anytime this amount is less than 35,000, you have what? Low. However, if it is less than 65,000, that means between 35,000 and 65,000 exclusive, not inclusive now, because it is not less than or equal to, it is just less than. So that means 64,999. So anything between that, it will come out as what? Average. Then anything greater than or equals to 65,000, that means 65,000 inclusive now, then you come up with I. Okay, and this is the result that we had. So you can see that this one now we have 70,000, and that's why we got what here? I. So if you scroll down to this one, you have 60,000. It came out to what? Average. Okay, and so on and so forth. So this can actually be done in your Power Query as well during your transformation. In fact, we did it in our transformation, in one of our transformation classes in Power Query. I think this is it here. So this is the one we did. You can see when I clicked on this, no formula appeared. But when I clicked on this, you can see the formula because we actually used Dax for this one. But this one was done in Power Query, the one I showed you earlier. So I'm just doing all of this because of those journey notes. I just want you to, get along and try to just follow as I'm just trying to do my best to bring you into the picture. Okay. So now last week we said we have two things that I need you to know, two terms. Again, this can be things that you can say during your interview. We have calculated column and measures, and I try to differentiate them. So I will call on someone. Let me see. I think Victor was in last week's class. Timothy as well was in last week's class. So if I can call on them to tell us what is the difference between calculated column and measures. We did it last week. So guys, please unmute and tell us the difference between calculated column and measures. Victor was in class, I'm sure. I don't know why Toyib is not here. So Timothy and Victor.
Sorry, please, what's the question again?
The difference between calculated column and measure. You were in class last week, right?
So for measure, yes, I am. So for measure, when you create the measure, I think you won't see the effect, you won't see the output on the table. So it's going to show along the field. So it's going to create like a small icon where you may not be able to see the effect, but if it's a calculated column, you will see the column is going to populate, for all the sheets. I mean, all the applicable rows. So, for example, just like you've done for the salary range, high, low. So we can also, so if it were to be a calculation, we can see that. But I think for measure, it's going to, that's the output or the outcome of that calculation is going to come under under the particular field or the particular table or field that is applicable to. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, that's close. Uche is raising up her hand. Yeah, if you can.
Let me try.
Okay.
From the tables, I think calculated column would be when we want to evaluate each rows. I think it works by rows, from my understanding. And for measures, so measures would be like when you want to check for the aggregates.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah. So one more contribution. Is Timothy there? Are you going to contribute? Thank you so much for that, Victor and Uche. Timothy is not, because I'm sure Timothy was in class. Okay, that's fine. Those two contributions are enough. So thank you guys. Yeah. Uche, not Uche, Victor. Yeah. Just like we said last week. So when you use the measures, you don't see them. These are like Uche is coming from a more advanced, level. So, but what I'm doing is make sure that we know this, right? I don't want to assume that everyone have the same level of experience. So, what we can easily relate with. So, when you create measures, simply you won't see them, okay? But when you create calculated columns, you are going to see them, just like this that we created. So, this is a calculated column, and that's why we can see it in the table. We actually created another measure here yesterday, last week. I don't know what I'm saying yesterday. Last week, which is total column. If I click on this total column here now, this is you can see there's a calculation for it, but you can't find it anywhere here. So this is another way of saying is simply the differences between calculated column and measure. Okay, so but just like Uche said, calculated column works with row context. Okay, so it's going to check it's based on a particular row, then it gives you the result. Why measure? I think I mentioned that last week. That measure will give you an aggregate, right? So it's going to give you less, like most of the time you use sum, use counts and whatever. Okay, so they will give you an aggregate. So those are like the differences between them. You can always read it up, but simply put, those are the differences between them. So we created this and this last week, and we saw the result. So for the measure, if I click on this now, this is the total income that we created. So you can see that we just got one result, okay, which is a total income. And if you check the formula responsible for it, it is a what? An aggregation function, which is what? Sum. Okay, so that's literally the differences between them. So we'll be checking out some now we'll be checking out some Dax functions. There are really a lot of them. I think about more than 250 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea is not for you to know everything. In fact, you cannot know everything, no matter how you try. I don't think you can know everything, but you know the most important ones. And I gave you an overview last week of them. I think this is it. Yeah, I gave you an overview of them. So I mean, based on the type. So we have what we call math and start functions. So these are, as you can see, these are aggregation functions. Okay, or iterators, because once you use them, they will give you a single value. I think we also mentioned that when we were working on Power Query, talking about the difference between transform and add column. Don't worry, guys, when you are watching the part of the video, you will understand. So when I do sum now, it's going to give me a single value. if I'm taking 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 8, irrespective of where I'm taking them from, I would only get one value as my result. Same thing as average, same thing as max, and what have you. So these are max or start functions, right? Then we have logical functions. So these are, again, those of us with experience with programming, whether we have experience programming or not, if you just Excel, you have experience with. Even if you don't have any experience at all, these are logical functions. Now, what do we mean by logical? There's usually a condition attached to it. There's a logic behind it. Okay, guys, if I come to the class by 6 p.m., right? That means I'm what? I'm early. If I come to the class by 7 p.m., that means I'm late. That's a logic. There's a condition there. So how do you know whether I'm late or I'm early? There's a condition. Okay, so I'm late if I come to the class at 7. I'm early if I come to the class at 6. So that's a condition. So that's how logical functions work. So there's usually a condition that needs to be met. So once that condition is fulfilled, then something happens. If that condition is not fulfilled, then maybe the opposite or something else happens, depending on how you want to put it. So that's how it works. So usually you find if error, and, or, not. We'll check out some of these. We can't check all, but just some of them. Then we have text functions. So these are like for manipulating text, as you can see. Concatenate, most of us are familiar with concatenate if you work with Excel. Now, I feel now you can see, those of us with Excel, you can see why I actually mentioned that Excel is really important. I mean, if you have really used Excel before, most of these things wouldn't be so new to you. So not because it is Microsoft's product, no, it is the same. Even if you go over to Python and all of that, it's still the same. That's why I really recommend it again, guys, to start out with Excel. If you are starting your data analytics journey, start out with Excel, please. So concatenate is like joining one or more strings together, right? Format, to be honest, I don't even know what this format does, but who cares? You can always find that out yourself, or you can just go to Google and check format in Power BI. So left, mid, right. So left, mid, right, this one is a way of getting strings from the left hand side, from the mid. I don't want to complicate things. Since we're not really talking about them here, maybe I even give you as an assignment. We have upper, lower. This is just to change the case. If it is lowercase, everything is small letter. If it is uppercase, everything is capital letter. This is proper. This is like every first letter is capitalized. We have length. This is like to count the number of characters, and so on and so forth. Then we have these filter functions. We have all of these. We'll be using this calculate a lot. Okay, it's really like one of those things that you cannot really avoid. Then we have this all as we'll be using it also a lot. So we also have dates functions. So these are for dates. Okay, when you're dealing with dates, these are the functions that you use. Again, guys, this is not to. I showed you now that I don't even know what format does. Right? I just showed you that I don't even know what it does. So it's not. I'm not saying this that you should not even learn anything at all. No, I'm only saying that don't get overwhelmed with it. Okay, there are really a lot to learn out there, but just to make sure you understand. If I need to use format, I know I can easily go to Google. Okay, if I see what it is used for. In fact, most times is to know what you want to do, but you don't know the right function to use. So you can always search. When I take classes, I really recommend guys to use Google. Like it's your best friend. Just type it out. I want to do this. You just find a lot of. Hopefully, we can have another session that shows us. Okay, maybe when we are doing our portfolio projects, we'll be looking at it, because really, I don't want you to think anybody there is an expert. Like nobody goes without using Google. Everyone does. Even the experts do. So we are really going to show how to use Google as well, because we are going to need it. So these are the groupings that we are able to come up with for these Dax functions. So we just go out there in our Power BI and try out some of them, and we'll see the result. Okay. So from the last time we saw how to use sum. We already use sum. It's very simple. Just sum everything that you have in your customers table. That is all. Then for count, we also did for count. I think we did for count of rows. So we can see this is count A of customer's key. So that we want to count the number of data that we have here. Count. Okay. So I also explained the different type of count that we have. Just check out the video. It's not a problem. Okay. So that's that. So today we'll just now start some real stuff. So in analytics, okay, in analytics, it's important to know your data set. I emphasized on that last week. It's important to know, understand your data set and some of the things you would like to achieve. Okay, this will help you come up with the right Dax functions to use. This will help you to come up with the right insights to generate and all of that. So before we go there, let us just try to experiment on some Dax, just to get familiar with some Dax. Okay. So now, how do you create your Dax functions? I showed you last week. Just right click on the table that you want to create that Dax function. So let's say, for instance, I want to create that Dax function in this. I think this customer's table is already getting to like it's a lot already. So let me look for one that we can see everything we have there. Let me use this product. Okay, I think this product is fine. Yeah, let's use this product. Okay, so now I want to create my Dax function on that product. All I need to do is right click on this product. Then you have new measure and you have new column. So new measure, as you know, is measure, while new column is the same as what? Calculated column, the one we explained earlier. By now, I believe you know the differences between them. Okay, so before you pick anyone between these two, you need to know what you need to create, whether it is going to be a measure or it is going to be a what? A calculated column. You get it now? That's that. So now, guys, let's start. It's going to be engaging now. So even if you are not with your Power BI on, just try to answer some of the questions I'll be asking. Now, let's assume I want to get the length of this model. Let's say, for instance, this is, I want to count the number of characters. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The hyphen, of course, 6 is also a character. 7, 8, 9. So I want to count the length of these characters. So what am I going to create, guys? Is it going to be a measure or a calculated column? Do you understand the question? Anybody?
It's a calculated column.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because you are dealing with rows, it should be calculated column.
Yeah, perfect. So I would create a calculated column now. I right click on it and I choose new column. And my calculated column will be length. I can call it length. Okay. The same way you write the formula is the same. Anytime, any day. You write the name of the column, the title. In this case, it's going to be length equals to what? So we're going to use length. I already told you, I already showed you earlier, length. So now, because of the IntelliSense, you can always check, if you check this now, if I click on this, or press Ctrl space, as you can see, you would access this read more. So with this read more, you can see what this function does. Just the same way we have it in Excel. So it says returns the number of characters in a text string. Can you see? Returns the number of characters in a text string. So that means that's exactly what we want to do, right? So now I can press my, instead I press my open bracket, or most times I just use my tab. If I use my tab, it automatically adds the open bracket for me. Now it's asking for the text. What is the text that you want to count? Don't forget, this is going to be a row context. We are going to apply it to all of this, or every row in this column. So all I'm going to do is give it the name of that column. You get it, guys? Will this work? I really hope it will, because it's asking for text. So let me see. So I'm going to say model name. If I type model, I showed you this last week as well, how you can always come up with it. So if you press tab or you click on it, sometimes I don't usually, most times I use tab. It's really more efficient that way. So once I use tab, I can close it or just press enter. If you press enter, it automatically closes. Okay, so now you can see that it has calculated the length of everything that you have here, which is 9 as we counted earlier, like that, and so on and so forth. Do you get it, guys? Perfect. Okay, another one we'll try out is, again, I'm creating another one. No, not a measure. I don't want a measure, sorry. I don't even know what it will be. It's you guys that will tell me whether it's going to be a measure or not. I don't know what it's going to be. So now let's try out. Let's assume I want to, this is cost now, right? This is the cost of the products that we have in our store. Can you see it? So now let's assume I want to know the total cost of the products that we have in our store. The total cost of the products that we have in our store. What am I going to do? Is it going to be a measure or a calculated column?
A measure.
Measure. Okay. Do we all agree with that? Do we agree with that? Okay. Let's see the result of the measure. Let's see if it's going to work. So if I click on new measure now, it's still the same thing. The formula is still the same. So I can name my measure, give it any name that you want. So this time I can say total cost. Just that's the name I want to give. Equals to. Now we want to calculate the sum, right? So it's an addition of everything. So what is the Dax function that does that? Sum. Okay. So I'm showing you what I'm basically doing in this process now is to show you the commonly used functions. That's basically what I'm trying to show you, right? I can't ask you to go and be checking what sum is. You'll be using sum very well and what have you. So most of the functions we'll be covering now are things I know you'll be using very often, and that's why I want to just show you how to use them. Okay, so sum, it's going to add everything together. You can see now it's asking for column name. Column name. So what is the column that you want to add everything together? That is product cost. So I can just type product. You can see all the options that you have for product. You can take it down to the one you want, which is product cost. Click on your tab, it will select it. You can see. You can either close the bracket or just press enter. It will automatically close for you. Okay. So now you can see that unlike when we created this length, we can't see anything. But we can see that our measure has been created. For those of us just joining us today, you can see the difference between a measure and a calculated column. This one comes with a calculator sign. This one comes with a table and something like that. So how do we now access our cost? That's this measure that we created. You can only access it when you include a filter context or maybe when you display it in a card. Okay, so I know we've not started visualization, but just for us to see. So if I click on this card now, this is a card, and I now go to my products. This is how you make use of your measures. So if I click on total cost, you can see that this is the total cost of everything that you have in that particular product cost column. Okay, so that's that. So just the same way, I'm not really going to be showing you the stuff. The same way we applied length is the same way if you need to do upper, for instance, or lower. Okay, let me just show you. Let me just show you that fast. So let's say I want to create again. Is it going to be measure or calculated column? It's going to be calculated column. Okay. So I want to change everything that I have here to capital letter. That's uppercase. So all I need to do is just name. You can name it, give it any name. So let me just name it caps. You can give it any name, right? So I use upper, right? So you can see, convert a text string to all uppercase letters. Can you see? So now, what is the column that I want to convert to uppercase? It is product name. So I can just type product name. Okay. So now, look at it. We have product name. I just select it, and I click on enter. Now you see that this new column that you created, everything is what is in capital letter. So that's basically how you use your Dax function, any of your Dax function. It's still the same way. You have the name of the column or the measure equals to the function you want to use and the argument for that function. So most of the time, it's just the argument that change, depend on the function that you want to use. Some functions will allow you to use it can only take two arguments. It cannot take one. Like this one is only taking one argument. In this case, this is the argument. That's the value that it needs. Some it needs to be 2. Some it needs to be 3. And so on and so forth. So this is how you use the function. So you can play around this that I showed you earlier. You can play around this, try to see what format does. Like this format that you don't even show, you can try to see. Go to your Power BI. You can change this one now to format, for instance. And see, it says convert a value to text in the specified number format. So check it out. What does it mean? And try to see if you can do what it's asking for. So how do you delete? In case you need to delete, that's another thing to show you. In case you need to delete your measures, it's still the same thing as deleting your table. So just right click on it and you see delete from order. Then you delete. Then say yes or no. Okay. So that is gone. That's if you need to delete. Okay. So with that, I think those are text functions, right? We've covered text functions. Now I will go to logical functions. Okay. I'll go to logical functions now. Okay. So before the logical, I think I should go to math function. I think that's more relatable than logical functions. That's more relatable than logical functions for now. So let me start with some math function. Okay, some basic math function. So we already saw some. When we try to do this, we already saw some. And let me show you count. Okay, so now let's assume I need to count how many products we have in our store. Okay, I know you might not really understand for those journey when I mean how many products we have in our store. Don't worry, when you watch other videos, you would get what we mean. We already explained all of that. So if I need to count the products that we have inside of this table, so that's basically saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. So instead of counting down like that, so we can always look for a function that will do that for us. So it's still the same method. How do we go about it? So guys, is it going to be a measure or is it going to be a calculated column? Is it going to be a measure or calculated column?
Could you please come again with the question? I'm sorry.
Okay. I want to calculate the products. We just want to calculate the number of products that we have in this table. The number of products. So instead of me saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 to the end. So what function can I use? And not a function, but that's what I want to do. I want to count. So is it going to be a measure or is it going to be a calculated column?
A measure.
A measure. Okay, perfect. So because after counting, of course, you definitely get a value, right? As your return value. So I'm going to right click, create new measure. So the name of the function can say count of products, whatever you want to name it. And it's going to be equals to count. Again, this is another function I'm showing you under math function. So if you check count, you can see that we have different types. Okay, I explained last week, but I will explain again. So we have different types of count. You have count A, you have count AX, we have count blank, we have count rows, we have count blah, 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 blah. But I will just show you the ones that are okay for you to know now. So the first one, this count, is actually used to count the numbers in a column. So that means if I have a column, let me open Excel so you can easily relate. Excuse me. Okay. So if I have, let's say I have a column age, for instance. And I have 1, I have 12, I have 17, I have 3, and I have 23, I have 9, I have this. Now, if you look at these, we have numbers here. We have blanks. We have a text. We have numbers. Now, if I use count, this count, ordinary count, what it's going to do is it will only count the numbers in that column. So in this case, this count will only return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get it? That is count. Now, if I use, you can see count the numbers in the column. Now, if I use count A, so what count A does, is it counts the number of values without blank. So whether it's going to be a number, whether it's going to be a text, it doesn't care. It just counts, basically it counts any cell that is occupied. So far it is not blank. Do you get? So in this case, that count A is like saying count all, right? So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. It won't count this. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you get it now? Then we have count blank. So count blank from the name, very easy to understand. It counts the number of blanks that you have. So in this case, it's going to be just 1. This is the only blank we have. Okay. So what else again? I think we have quite a number of them. So we have count rows. So count rows now is what counts everything. So it doesn't, whether it's blank, whether it's, it just counts all the rows there. Okay, so it counts all the rows. That's what this does. Then I won't talk about this count X now because I don't want to go there. It's an iterator function. We are still going there, so let me skip it till then. Then we have distinct count. So what do you mean by distinct? When you say something, when you say distinct. So we've mentioned distinct a lot so far in our sessions. So distinct is saying unique, although it's not the same as unique. I later realized that it's not the same as unique, but they are mostly used interchangeably. It's not the same as unique. Maybe I can give you as the first assignment today. What is the difference between unique and distinct? So let me show you what distinct means. So if I have something like 12, 13, 14, 12, 15, 14. So distinct count, what's going to do now is, no, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. So just count to bring 6. But distinct count, any value that appears twice is going to count it as 1. Okay, so this 12 now, you can see 12 appears twice. Same as 14. So it's going to count them just once. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to count this one again because it already appeared before. 4. Then this is not going to count because it appeared before. So that's distinct count. So you have 4 instead of 6. Okay, so that's distinct count. So those are the differences between distinct count. When you're working on different data sets, you know when to use which. So don't worry. Okay, if you need to use this, you know when to use it. So don't worry about that. I'm just trying to show you the differences between them. So back to what we wanted to do. We wanted to count the number of products that we have here. So which of the counts do you think we can use, guys? You can tell me which one can we use based on all the explanation. Which of these counts do you think we can use? Anybody? Or maybe that explanation of those counts was too fast. Okay, let me assume it was too fast. So let me assume it was too fast. We always go back to it if we have to. So we can actually, because there's no blank, if you check this whole thing now, there's no blank. So even if we use count rows, even if we use count A, and everything here are numbers, they are still going to give us the same result in this case. Okay, so we can use either one. So but most of the time, I always prefer to use count A. Okay, so because it gives me the number of rows that we have values. Don't forget. So what is the column name that we want to count? So we can count anyone here, but I prefer to count this product key. Okay, so I just type product key. So you can see we have product key different tables now. You can see we have in products table, we have in returns table, we have and so on and so forth. So don't make the mistake. we are working on what? Product table. So what we want to count is the one for product table, not the one for returns table. So I'm going to click on this and I type on enter. So because it is not a calculated column, of course, you can't see anything added to your tables. So the only way you can access it is to come here, bring in a card and what? Add it. So if you come here, you will see count of products. So you can see we have 293 products here. So if you come to your table on your left-hand side or bottom left, here, guys, if you can see my mouse, bottom left, you can see that we have the total here, 293 rows is what we have. So that means we are correct. So that's that. Now, another function, today is all about Dax functions, okay? So next week we'll be doing visualization. I just want those that are joining us today to really catch up with us so that we can just give them that space. So today we'll just be doing different Dax functions, just be covering as much as I can, okay? So we'll be looking at, let's look at max function. Let's look at max function. So again, I don't know if it's among those that I showed you earlier. Yeah, we have it max me. So what does this do? This one just gives us from the name maximum, right? So if I come to this product cost, for instance, and I use that max function, it's basically going to give me the product with the what? With the highest cost, maximum, the largest value. Similarly, minimum will give me what? The lowest. So guys, those two functions, are they going to give us a measure or calculated column?
Measure.
Huh?
Measure.
Measure. Perfect. So now I can create a new measure now for product and say most expensive product, something like that. Most expensive product. So another thing to note is best way of doing things is to, when you're naming your column, don't use space. Try as much as possible not to use space. So use underscore instead of space. So most expensive product is equals to maximum max, right? So I click on enter, it's asking me, where do you want to check your max? What is the column name or scalar? So of this what product cost. So if I type just cost, you can see I have different options, but okay, yeah, I have it here, product cost. I type on my enter, my tab, and click on enter. Again, it's a measure, so we're not going to see anything. So if I come here now, don't worry, we're going to clear all of this. So if I type in, if I bring in my most expensive product, you can see it is what? 2.17K. So I can change this one to this number. So I just want it as a number, 2171. So what product is that? I don't even know. Let's check it. So 2171, this is the product here. Somewhere here. You can see when we go to filter, you can see filter all the products that you have. Similarly, if you do the same thing for minimum, that will be the least expensive product. So I'm going to create a new measure and name it least expensive or cheapest product, if I can use that. So it's going to be minimum. So minimum, again, that same column, costs. So if I just come here, click on my enter, and I have the same thing. So if I bring it over here to the same thing, don't worry, guys, all of this, our visualization will get more interesting in the next class once we are done with the DAX. So I feel it's important to have, I was planning to do some visualization today, but I thought it would be okay to spend a lot of time on these DAX, because when we are doing visualization, we'll be doing a lot of them. So I wouldn't want a situation where I'll probably be using something for the first time. I want to try as much as possible to use, I want to use as many as possible DAX function I can use now that I know that I'll probably still be using later. You understand? So that's what I want to do. So those are like, I've shown you sum, I've shown you count, I've shown you max, I've shown you mean. Another one is average. That's really simple. I don't need to demonstrate that. So it's still the same average, that you put in the column that you want to calculate the average. Okay. So now take note, when you are doing all of these aggregation functions, they can only work with a colon that contains number. A colon that contains number. I'm very sure when some of us are, I'm very sure someone will still come up with a question one day that, hey, I'm applying my DAX and it's not giving me anything, or it's giving me error. And once I see that kind of thing, what I know that colon has not been formatted as a number. So for instance, if I want to calculate sum for this product description, and let's see what we get. So let me just say test. Let me just call this one test. Sum of description. Of course, your DAX, when you're writing your DAX, it won't give you an error. It won't give you. It's when you want to bring it out, then you will see the error. So if I bring in a card here now, and I click on this test that I created, you can see, can't display this visual. So because you cannot be using, this is text. How do you want to be adding them together? What is the adding them? So that's that. So always make sure, sometimes your stuffs can be here like this. You'll be seeing them as numbers, but they are not formatted as numbers. I think we also treated that earlier, right? There was I don't know if we tried doing something and it was not working, and because it's not formatted as text. So when you receive such error, you need to go back to your query editor and change the format of that column to what? To a number. Then that measure would work, provided you are using measure, because measure deals with numbers. Okay, so take note of that, guys. So you can test on average, see what average will give you. You can test on divide. There's okay, let me show you divide. The only reason I want to show you divide is because we have two arguments, so you are going to see what it looks like. So let's assume I want to divide my product cost and my product price divided by my product cost. I know it doesn't make sense, but let's just do something. So I want to divide this now divided by this. Okay, so all I need to do is create, of course, it's going to be a measure, right? No. Okay, guys, let me ask you, is it going to be a measure or calculated column? Thank God that you know.
Calculated.
Who said calculated? Timothy? Was that Timothy or Victor?
No, not me.
Okay, Timothy. Who said calculated? Talk now. You said calculated.
Tim.
Tim. Okay.
Yes.
Any other suggestion? Is it going to be calculated or? Guys, is it going to be calculated? Calculated. Perfect. Why is it calculated? Why is it not measured?
So I believe measure is mostly used for aggregates.
Huh?
So I said I believe measure is mostly used for aggregate.
Yes. So when we do division now, we are not going to get a single value, right? So because for this column now, for this row, we have a result. For this row, we also have a result. For this row, we also have a result. So it's correct. You get, so it's going to be what? A calculated column. So I'm going to right click and click on column. So it's going to be, I can just say, let me just say price over product. Price over, or let me say over cost, something like that, is equals to. So I'm going to use divide. Okay, so what is the numerator now? So the numerator is this one, right? Price. So I can just go down to product price. Now, if I leave it as only this one, you can see it's even giving me an error here. This is what I wanted to show you. So it's saying too few arguments with pass. The minimum argument is what? Is 2. Initially, we've been using only one argument for most of our functions, but here now we need 2 arguments. You can see it's not even going at all. So now I need to add the second one, comma. So now you can see after I added that comma, it's asking me for the denominator. So what's the denominator? Cost, right? So I go again to my product cost, and now I can put in my enter. We are going to have the result. Okay. Now, if you check, while I was typing it, if I type comma again, we have what we call alternate result. Alternate result. Now, before I show you what that alternate result does, let me show you another way you can do this. Then you now understand what alternate result does. So the same thing that you did here, you can actually do it like this. Just create a new column and say price over cost 2 is equals to, say, product price over, you can use this section, over product cost. So when you do this, you also get the same thing. Can you see? So why then do we now stress ourselves using divide function? So that's where that alternate comes in. So divide function gives you the provision for alternate result. And when does your alternate result come in handy? It comes in handy when you need to divide by, let's say, 0, or divide by a blank. You know, when you divide any number, when you divide the number by 0, it's going to give you an error, right? So for instance, if I say 12 divided by 0, you can see it's giving me an error. So when you have such scenario, that value would be what? An alternate. So is that value that you added as an alternate result that would be there. So you, instead of getting an error, you would have that value. But when you use this second method, it will just give you an error there. You see an error there. Do you get it now? Do you get it, guys?
If I may ask, what kind of value can be suggested to be the alternate?
No,
do you just put 0, or you just write some character?
It depends on what you are doing. It depends on the data that you are, it depends on what you are doing, basically. So let's say, for instance, in this case now, I might as well just put, okay, why in this case now, I'm not really expecting to get an alternate value because there is no product that should be 0 now. Why will a product cost 0? I mean, the price of a product cannot be 0. Logically, even if we had a product that is 0, for instance, yeah, we would have probably known that something is wrong. And when we are transforming, we would have sorted that out. So I might not really find a use case in this scenario, but I can't really think of one now. But if it depends on what you are doing. If you think you can replace it with a null, or if you think you can replace it with maybe just say impossible, something like that, or no, just whatever. It depends on what you're doing. So it's the context of what you're doing that will tell you what is the. It's not like there's a constant value that, oh no, it depends on what you're working on. Do you get my question? Do you get my answer? Do you get? I hope I did not complicate, or maybe you're not expecting such. Huh?
So I think I get it.
Okay, perfect. So it depends on what you are working on. So it's not like there's a constant value that you must use for it. Okay. So now the same way we use count is where you are going to use distinct count. So just the same formula, just write distinct count and put the colon that you want to do distinct count. So I'm not really going to go into that. Now, guys, let's now assume, right? Let's now assume that this, let me delete one of them. Which one should I delete? Okay, let me just leave them. So now we agreed that in order to create this guy now, we needed a calculated column, right? Which is good, no problem. But now let's now assume that we wanted to divide them, right? We wanted to divide them. And after dividing them, we wanted to add them together. Do you get what I'm saying? Let me show you in Excel. I always like to demonstrate with Excel. So let's assume we have something like this. So let's assume I have 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. And I have here, I have 2, 5, 7, 4, 2. And I did something like this, equals to this multiplied by this. I bring it down. So, this is similar to what we did now, although this one is multiplication, not division, right? So we, just like what we did here, we performed we performed an operation on this and this, right? So this is exactly what we did here. So we performed an operation on this and this. We got 2. Then we did the same thing here, everything. So now after doing it, we now need a result that is going to give us a sum of everything. So how are we going to do that? Of course, this definitely is no longer a calculated measure, calculated column. It is now a measure, right? So how do we now go about that? So because you have done this now, right? What you need to do now is do what? You now create a new measure. Is it not it, guys? You create a new measure now and say sum of price. Let me just call it price over cost equals to, then you write sum, right? Then what is that? This is it, right? So you write sum of price over cost, either whether 1 or 2, so they are the same thing. Enter. So you'll see that, of course, the measure. Once we come here now, let me delete this one. And I bring in my card and I put in that sum of price over cost. We have our answer. This is our answer. Can you see it, guys? Which is okay to do. But to be honest, this, if you had millions of rows, this is going to affect your model. Because before you got this, you're already using 2 functions. Don't forget, we first did the divide function. After division, it was stored as calculated. And don't forget, one of the difference, again, between calculated colon and measure, I mentioned it in previous class, is that calculated colon, because you can see it in your data, it takes space. So it is more heavy. Measure does not. It is like a virtual thing. So it is only, you only see it when you summon it. But calculated colon, it takes space. Okay. So now you can see that you use the function that created the calculated colon. It has already created space. Now you now applied another function on that colon, really like going to affect your model. So there's a formula that helps us in evaluating expressions. Because what we did basically here is evaluating an expression. Don't forget that this divided by this is like an expression or a formula, right? This divided by this is an expression, okay? You are trying to compute something. Then, after you got your result, you now performed another function on it, okay? So instead of going through all of these steps, there's a formula that you can use. And this is the formula that I can guarantee you that if you open your Power BI to work on a project, 10 times, I can guarantee that you use this function 12 times out of 10. I know that's an exaggeration, but just tells you the importance of this function. And what is the function I'm talking about? What is this function I'm typing? It is known as the calculate function. Calculate function. Okay. So this, I would, should I take a break now before we continue with it? Because, okay, let's take 5 minutes break, then we'll continue with the calculate function, okay? So 5-minute break, guys, I will be back by my own time. Okay, that's 5 minutes break. Just look at it with your time and back 5 minutes. So see you guys. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I hope you all had good break. I'm trying to share the link again for the first session and the second one as well. I'm just trying to drop them now on Discord for those who requested earlier. So I think the third one has not been uploaded. It will probably be uploaded today. So just start with this 2. So this is the first, this is the second one. Session 2. Okay. All right, so we're gonna continue now with our Dax. So I said there's another one, a function, the calculate function. So you really find it, you use it all the time, and that's why I did all of those hype. Not that I'm trying to scare you or something. but it's something you are going to be using a lot of times. So just to demonstrate how we can use it, what we just finished, we'll try to see how we can do it better using the calculate function. So instead of having to write two different functions, two different phrases, creating a this and all of that, so that calculate function will help us. So how will it go? So I'm going to right click again. I'm going to create a new measure. Of course, calculate function will always work with a measure. Like, can we have it as well? We can, if we are trying to calculate something, based on two different columns, you can still have it as calculated. But most of the time, why waste it? You can just write your functions directly if you need to. So now I'm going to write the same thing that we calculated, which is a sum of POC. So I'll just write sum of POC.
Sorry, excuse me. I can't see your screen.
My bad. I think I forgot to share. Sorry. Let me share my screen. Sorry about that. Thank you. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. You can see Power BI, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I was saying I was going to create a new function, a new measure now. Okay. So for our calculate, so I'm going to right click as usual, sum of POC 2. I'll be naming it 2. So the one we created earlier, just to compare and see that we're going to get the same result. So how does the calculate function work? So just write calculate and you have this. So now you can see that calculate takes in an expression, all right, and a filter. So you can see anytime you have this square bracket, even the same in Excel, it means optional. It means this particular value is optional. When we were doing our divide earlier, that alternate result was in square bracket. It means optional. So even if you don't have it, this function will still work. You understand? So, but if you have it, then but we're not doing filter now. So we're not doing anything filter. We just want to do based on expression alone. This is important. It's the important argument there. So now, how do we now write our expression? So let's assume that the only thing we just want to calculate is the division of product and price. Then we might have used calculated colon and used this, and it will still work. But don't forget, it's still going to be a waste of calculate function, because what we want to do in the end is still to sum it all up. So now our expression will be sum, right? We're starting from the back now. Look at this. We first multiplied them together, then we added them together, right? So in the one we are doing in Power BI, we first divided this by this, then what? We added them together. So we are starting from the back now. That's from sum. So sum, okay, what are you summing? What do you want to add together? Or let me make it easy for us to understand. So let's divide, right? We want to divide price and cost. So I'm going to say product cost. So now this is the issue. The issue is, don't get it twisted, guys. Don't worry, just be patient with me. The issue is sometimes when you are working with not even sometimes, when you are working with expressions, you won't have any column name. You likely have your measures. Now, if I type product now, I'm not having anything that is like maybe product cost, product price, product style. You can see everything I have here is a measure, because it is an expression. That's one of the side. Don't worry. I know you might not really understand this now, but as you get along, you would understand. So I must use that sum. That's basically what I'm saying. So I'm going to use sum. So I want to sum what? What do I want to sum together? Okay. So now, this is where we have, I won't just use sum. Okay. Now, this is where we have the iterator function that I talked about earlier. Now, what is iterator? Iterator means you are trying to check it row by row. Okay? You are iterating. When you say you are iterating, you are living from this place, going to this place, going to that place, going to that place, like that, and so on and so forth. So when you talk of iterator functions, when they are accompanied with any of these functions that you know, whether it's going to be count, whether it's going to be sum, whether it's going to be average, whatever, you are going to see them with x. Okay? So in this case, it will be sum x. If it's count, it's going to be count x. I'm sure you saw count x earlier. It's going to be average x. So why do we now use iterator and when do we use it? Now, in this case, because we want to perform an operation first, which is this divided by this, you get your answer. This divided by this, you get your answer. This divided by this, you get your answer. If you use sum, look at it. If I use sum only, sum is asking me for a colon name. But don't forget that we have not created any colon for this divided by this. Have we? No. We did not create it because the assumption now is that these two are not there. Don't forget. We are doing something that will save us the stress of having to create all of these two things. So now we don't have any colon that we say this divided by this. We don't have it. So in order to sort for that, we need to keep this divided by this. We need to keep it somewhere in something we can call an imaginary colon. So if you want to fetch from an imaginary colon, you will need to use an iterator function. So that the idea is going to be this. When you perform operation between these two, keep it somewhere. 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 Now we want to add all these things that it has kept. Then you need to use what? A sum x, an iterator function. That's it. That's the way I can really explain it to you to make you understand. So it's going to create an imaginary colon for you now, right? So then it's going to now take the four. So after getting an, so most times you use it when you want to do an expression. You know, if it's like maybe you want to calculate sum of everything you have here now, it's very easy. You can just say sum and you write the name of this column. But in this case now, don't forget, we don't want to create another column. We don't want to create another column. So we want to perform this operation and then work on it without creating another column. Then you need to use an iterator function. So now instead of me using just sum, I will use sum x. So now if I put sum x, you can see now that sum x, oh goodness, is asking for two arguments now. We are already going deeper. Don't worry, it's not a problem. We know where we are coming from. So sum x is asking for two things. What is he asking me, guys? Please unmute and tell me. What's he asking for? What's sum x asking for?
Table and expression.
He's asking for table and expression. So first thing is table. What is the table? Products table, right? We are working on products table, right? So I select products, comma. What is the expression? Our expression is simple. This product cost divided by this price divided by cost. That's our expression, right? So let's say price. Now, look at it. Product price divided by, you can use divide function, you can, but I don't think we need to use divide since we don't have any zero here, so it's not important. So divided by product cost. So, right. So I close this bracket now for the sum. So we have already closed this bracket now for the whole of sum x. Can you see it now? So then I press enter and my Dax has been created. This is it. So if I go to my formula now, if I go back here and I bring in my card and I put in my days, you can see that we had the same result as this one without creating additional column. I know, guys, this is, oh, see, don't worry. See, if you feel anyhow about this, I'm with you. I totally understand. I totally understand. If it was like everybody would just, I'm not saying it's difficult. At the same time, I'm not saying I expect you to that. The way I'm saying it, it's just be entry. No, I know it might sound, although some people might have gotten it, some might still be, oh God, what's this? Don't worry. Just give it time. It's transferable. If you can know some X now, you don't need to go and learn count X. You don't need to go and learn average X. It works for it. It's still, you just need to understand the, so don't get, if it's probably sounding somehow now, don't worry. If you can try watch the video again, this part of it, or even just try to check it yourself and see. Read it up on Google, what is the difference between sum and sum X? And to be very honest with you, this is also another question in interviews. I told you I wouldn't teach you anything outside of, I wouldn't teach you anything that you will not use in an interview. Or let me say that is likely not to be asked in an interview. So far, so good, I can vouch that more than 80% of all we have done will be something that you'll be asked in an interview. So it takes time, okay? So that's how an iterator. I just use this one to show you two things now. The calculate function and also the iterator functions. Because we had it, I think we had it here. I think we had it here. This place, iterator function. So you can see sum X, average X, max X, min X. You know, rank, don't forget about the rank X, count X. So it just means that now for that max X now, since we already did max before, I think you should be able to relate with this. So now what, should I even do max X now? Or I should just, no, let me leave it and let me just make sure that you understand this one first. So I will take it all over again, guys, for you to understand. So this is it. We want to calculate this divided by this, right? And sum it all up together. This divided by this. We want to sum it all up together. Of course, this is an expression. If you say this divided by this, is an expression or a formula, if you can call it that way. But after doing it, you don't want to store it here. You don't want to create it as a calculated, because for you to store it here now, it needs to be calculated. It needs to be created as a calculated column. Then you now create another measure that will what? Sum it all up. So instead of doing that, you can use that iterator function, which is what? In this case, sum X. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is what? Sum everything together. That's why it's sum X. Assuming it's average, you want to calculate, it's going to be average X. So, and what is the argument for your X? Anytime you have X, the argument is usually the table name first and that expression. So what is that expression that you want to like, that's like, you know, now we have two things I want to do. The first time is want to do this divided by this. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that what want to add the result together. So that first thing is your first expression, which is this divided by this. Okay, then you now sum them together. That's when sum comes in. So sum X now, what it's going to do is going to first do this one. Bam. After doing this one, then it will now sum. Okay, because as you can see, if we want to use, maybe you might say, okay, why not say sum, then this divided by this? But it will not work. Why? Because sum takes in column name argument, just as you saw. When I typed sum, let me write it again. Let me just type in something again. Say like test. If I say sum now, you can see what is the argument is asking for. Column name. But we have not created any column for it. You understand? In the previous case, in the first one we did, this one, this POC, sum of POC, you can see that we use sum because we already created an additional column, price over cost. But that is what we're avoiding now. We don't want to create a new column for it. And that's why we need to use an iterator. So that iterator is going to create an imaginary, take it like that. It's going to create an imaginary colon for you after performing that first operation, which in this case is this divided by this. Then it will now perform the second operation, which in this case is what? Sum. Do you get it? Any question, guys? Any question, guys? Any question? Okay. All right. So that's iterators. That's how you use iterators. We did not really use that calculate function because, to be honest with you, I think without that calculate, we would still have gotten the same result. I think so. Yeah. If we don't use this calculate, we still have gotten the same result. If I do this now, yeah, we're still going to get the same result. So now we want to do that calculate. That one was just to show you the iterator function of sum x. The same applicable for count x, applicable for average x, and so on and so forth. Okay. So now let's go to calculate itself. Calculate itself. So when do you use calculate? Of course, you saw that calculate worked. It's just like a waste of calculate. Calculate is just used to calculate from the word calculate, right? So it will always work for it. So, but that was just a waste of using it because now we are having two functions, calculate and sum x. It's going to affect our modeling. As an analyst, it's as much as you would like to, no matter how good you are, one thing always comes to your mind is optimizing your model. Optimizing your model, because if the analysis is good, your visualization is good and everything, and people are having issues accessing your model, they're having issues accessing your report. Maybe it takes like 20 minutes for your report to load. You know, this is no longer serving its purpose. Or they are trying to filter something and it's taking like minutes for it to change. And they are, you can imagine you are in a meeting and you are trying to click a filter that, okay, you want to see the sales in USA, and it's taking like 30 seconds to respond to that click, then you know something is wrong. So this is why optimization of your model is important. As much as you like to flex with all of these functions, do all sorts of things, you have to be mindful of your model. Anything that is going to affect your model, avoid it as much as you can. Okay? So that's that. So in that case, having that calculate function here is just adding more to our model, because that model now we have to do two things. It will be calculating at the same time it will be doing that sum x, which will definitely affect the performance. So going to calculate proper, let me show you a use case of calculate function. So calculate function mostly is used with most times, personally, I've always used it with a Dax measure. Okay, I don't have to write a calculate function and now start writing an expression inside of it. I mean, saying this divided by this or this multiplied. No, I use it with a measure. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. Now look at these guys. I know we've not started. Let me create a new page. I know we've not started visualization, but just allow me. I just want to show you something. Don't worry. I know we've not started visualization. I just want to show you something. Now, if I come to my product, if I come to my product categories now, no, optimization is not the same as normalization. No, optimization is not the, normalization is with your database, it's with your data, it's with more of the modeling part. Optimization is like overall. You can find a way of optimizing even your Power Query. Can find, in fact, optimization starts from the source. I was mentioning earlier that it's best that you do as much transformation you can do from your source data before you import it inside of your Power BI or Tableau. Then sometimes you might need to still do some transformation inside of your Power Query. Do it there. But the worst place you can do your transformation is inside using Dax function. So like this one that we created, this, let me show you what I mean. This one that we created now, this salary, if you come to customers now, this salary range, we created this salary range. This is like the worst way you can ever transform the data. So instead of doing it here, you can do it in your Power Query, just the way we did this here. But the best way of doing this now is to now do it in your raw file. Go to your Excel, create it. Then when you are importing the data, it's already there. That's optimization. So the energy is going to take, because when you add more data to this, it has to perform the same operation. And the energy is going to take to do that is going to be sorted out for in another place. So that's why it's going to affect the performance. So optimization is different from normalization. Thank you for that question, Uche. So I wanted to show you something here. So if I come to my product category now, and I just click on maybe category name, don't worry, I know everything this one I've not gotten yet, but I just want to show you something. So this is our categories that we have in this top. This is accessories, this is bikes, this is clothing, this is components. Now, if I click on, because we have already done the modeling, don't worry, they're already connected, we'll get a very good result. So if I click on product cost, I think we did something like total cost earlier, yeah. If I click on total cost now, you realize that it's already computed for me that every of our products under accessories, this is the amount. Don't worry, how this one worked out is the beauty of Dax functions, right? It's very flexible, measures, very flexible. So, but don't worry, when we start our visualization proper, you would be doing a lot of this. So this is the cost for accessories. This is the cost for bikes. This is the cost for clothing. This is the cost for component, as you can see, all these categories there. Now, let's now assume that, okay, you are just interested in this. Let's come back to our table now, this place, this product. So let's now assume that we are interested with our products that are under bikes. Okay, now in this place now, we want to calculate the sum of the costs of our products under bikes. Of course, from this place now, you cannot easily even know which one is under bikes. I don't expect you to know. Nobody can know, except maybe you are familiar with this product. But because of the modeling that we have done, there are this in the background, behind the scenes, that's with the Dax function and the modeling, they are able to know which product belongs to the categories. That's why your modeling is important. Once you have gotten it wrong there, then there's trouble. So, but because of the Dax, it already know, because of the modeling, it already knows which product belongs to the what? Belong to the bike category, which product belongs to the accessories. So you don't need to bother yourself with that. So now I want to calculate the amount. I don't need the total cost of the products under accessories, under bikes. Then I need to use my calculate function. How do I use it? I'm going to right click, create a new measure. Then I'm going to write, I can write bikes costs. This is for only bikes now, right? So I can write calculate. Now I'm having an expression. I told you most of the time my expression is usually an existing measure. Okay, so now what is the measure? Don't forget, we want to calculate the total cost now, right? But not just total cost of all the products, total cost for products under bike alone. Do you get it, guys? Products under bike alone. So the expression here will be that measure, which is total cost, right? I want to calculate the total cost. If I click on total cost now, if I click on total, you see total, we have it under products, total cost. You can see the calculator sign. It's not bringing any colon here because it is expecting an expression. It's not bringing any colon name. So this is the measure. Now, if I stop there, if I just click on enter, and I come to this place, and I click on that measure, where is it? Bikes cost. I'm going to get the total amount as the same thing here. Because I've not done anything called filter. All I just did was, okay, just give me the total cost, right? You can see that we have the same. If I change this one out to number, you can see it's like 121K. I don't know why this guys are disturbing me. I don't want you as testing. Let me just leave it. So you can see it's like the same thing as what we have here. But what I want is for only bikes. Now I go back to my Dax. This is the bike cost. I click on it. If you click on it, you always have it here, then you can always edit it. So now I come back. Now, if I had my comma, don't forget this filter, I told you is optional, right? But now we need it because we want to filter to only bikes. We want only products that what? Their category name is what? Bikes. Okay? So how do I do it? All I need, let me delete this. So because by the time I come back here, you'll probably be seeing it. So let me just delete this. So how do I do it? I will come here now. In my filter now, I'm under filter now. You can see filter is active. My filter now will be what? I want the products that their category name, because I already have category name here, you can check it. So under categories now, I want product that their category name is equal to what? Bikes. So bikes is a string. So it needs to be in quotes. Anytime you want to write strings in most of the programming language, whether even in Excel, you have to write it in, but here is in double quotes, not single quote. Bikes. I think we did this. I'm not sure, maybe in this class, I don't know. So product category now, look at this guy, what's happening? We want to calculate this total cost, but not just total cost as in the total cost. Because if you leave it as just that total cost, it's going to give us the total cost, as I showed you earlier. But that's not what I want. I want total cost for when the category name is equal to what? Bikes. That's the filter. So that means out of all of these things that we have in this kingdom, I want only animals that are lion, or I want only animals that are elephants. I don't want all of you. I want only those that are this. So if I click on enter now, and I go to and I bring in my card, and I bring in that bike cost, you can see that it is the price of bikes that we have. So that's how you use your filter with your calculate function. Do we get it now? Is it clear? Is it clear? So it's basically used for a measure. If you check your calculate function, it will take in a measure most times, then filtered on what? This. The same thing is applicable if you want to use it for this count. You can even use it for count. You want to count only products that are what? That are bikes. That their category name is bike. It's still going to give you the same thing. Do you get it now? So that's calculate and filter. Okay? Calculate and filter. Calculate and filter. Any question, guys? I know this is really like a whole lot, especially considering the fact that some of us don't have experience with analytics. And I'm really being considerate right now. And that's why I'm not really trying to do a lot. I mean, I would like to stop here because I know some of us are probably seeing this for the first time. But I must be sincere with you. If you have experience with Excel, I keep saying it. If you have experience with Excel, maybe it might not be totally new as you see it now. Those of us that know Excel will probably testify that I'm right. I mean, they look similar way of writing the formulas and all of that. So I will use this opportunity again to state what I stated before we started this session. It was not recorded. That if you are just starting your analytics journey, start out with Excel. Please, I beg you. Start out with Excel, then you can move on to, you can learn it alongside a visualization tool, such as Power BI in this case, or Tableau. I recommend Power BI. Of course, we're in Power BI class. Then you can move over to SQL. So with these three in your arsenal, I can guarantee you a good paying job. Then when you're on the job, you can always look at transitioning further into data science, all of this. Data really has a lot of career in it. But these three tools that I mentioned will give you like a bedrock for wherever area you want to go. Okay, even as deep as machine learning. I mean, recently I just realized that I was taking a course and talking about machine learning, and I was really pumped up for like machine learning. Wow. And when I got there, it was the Excel they were using for machine learning. So that really tells you as simple as Excel is really complex. Really complex. I don't think anyone knows up to 45% of what Excel can do. I don't think so. Excel really has a lot more than you think. So if there's anyone telling you that you should ditch it, please, that person does not like you. Please. And for many of us, we feel we know Excel, yeah, because we probably use it for projects or all of that, but there are really a lot more that we can learn that if we know it in that Excel, by the time we are learning it in other tools, it becomes like something really easy. That's the essence of it all. So you don't have to learn like the hard way. You learn in a more simpler environment, and by the time you are going harder, it's relatively easier for you because you have something that has exposed you to something related to that, if not exactly. You understand? So that's really an advice I would give on that. So far today we did a couple of Dax functions. I don't expect you to stop here. I mean, go online, go on the internet, you can type in commonly used Dax functions and try to work on, see how they are used, and you have the data with you, you have the table, you have everything. Just try to write and see the result yourself. You know where to find your measures when you create them. You know how to access them. I've shown you how you can bring up your measures, right? Using a card, you can see the value. Then when you do your calculated column as well, you can see what you can bring up. So with that, I think next week we'll probably be able to start doing some visualization, I promise. Because I know it's really, it's the most interesting part of it all. Like you'll be seeing colors and all of that. I'm not really an artistic person, so don't really be excited about, I'm not so excited about it. I mean, I'll just show you the important things I need to show, but if you want, you can always color your stuff if you deem fit, but I'm not really an artistic person. I'm more concerned about the technical part of things than just the UI UX part, if I can put it that way. So next week we'll be doing, we'll start visualization. Would have to do a walkthrough of this table again, all the tables, and see. We'll start out with writing the insights, what we can bring up from all of these things that we are doing, because we are just seeing all different tables. What do we actually need? Do we need to take these steps that we are taking? It is based on what we need that will determine the type of transformation you will do. If you want to analyze the data now that talks about the age, you want to see like what is the age group that is patronizing you most. I'm doing an instance now, right? You want to see an age group that is patronizing your product most. And you have a date of birth. You have just date of birth. Of course, you cannot just use date of birth like that. You need to transform that date of birth to like age. Maybe do something like today minus that date to give you the person's age in numbers. Then that age that you have, maybe this one is 34, this one is 35, this one is 36, and so on and so forth. You can't use that age too like that. It is like, it's going to give you a very, very, it's going to be widely distributed. So you need to create like a group for it, just like we did with the annual income. Then you can say, okay, people between 0 and 18, we want to call them young. People between, or minus, people between, minus, yeah. People between 19 and 35, want to call them young. People between 35 and this, want to call them adult. People between this and this, want to call them old. So in this case now, this is the type of transformation that you would like to do. But if I'm not interested in what age group is patronizing me, I don't need to work on it. So that tells you that you need to have an understanding of the data. You need to have an understanding of what you would like to achieve. And that's why before you start your whole process of analysis, you need to know what your objectives are. You need to know what you what your insight, what you would like your audience to see from the whole data. So once you have that documented, while you are going through your data, you can start pinpointing which columns will serve you for what you want to do. Do you get it now? So it's not like you just bump on data, you just start, no. You have to know where you are headed and what things will help you get that information. One more addition, if I'm analyzing for CEOs, the CEO of a company or the board of directors of the company is different from when I'm analyzing for a marketing department of that same company, because they are all expecting different things. So that's another point, that your audience also determine what drives your insight. The board of whatever, they will be more interested in what is the profit so far? What is the profit compared to last year? What is the profit compared to last month? These are things they would like to see. But when it comes to the marketing department, they will be more interested in which area is generating profit for us most. How can we scale up our advertisement for this area? Which gender is patronizing our product? Is it the female? Is it the male? What channel are they using to buy? Are they coming to the shops or they are buying online? So you can see now that different audience, different things that they need, and of course, different data that you'll be like, I mean, different transformation. The implication is that you'll be dealing with different stuff, different tables, different columns for just to get the result. You understand? So that's all. These are the important information you need to know in your journey. But what we are doing is, because it's a class and we are just touching as much as we can. So next week, we'll try to have a direction, probably on both views, even on the board of directors, on the sale, just have as much as possible. Then we'll try to highlight it down. On the typical way how I work, I try to document it. Well, this is what I want to achieve. These are the metrics I would need. I will check, do I have them? Yes, good. Do I have them? No. How do I get them? Just like the age I told you about. Okay, I need it from this date. This is how I'm going to do it. Fine, sorted. You know, and so on and so forth. And hopefully next week's session is going to be a great one. I apologize for the time to be sorted out towards the next class. So I believe for those in Nigeria, in West Africa, in my side of the world as well, probably be starting the session by 6 p.m. Those in the US, I think it's still the same for them. The regular time we start initially. So with that, we have come to the end of today's session. I have a question here. If you still have some time, can wait. Oh, okay, yeah, private one. Yes. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please let me know before I stop the recording and we can go. Any question, guys? Okay, if you don't have a question now, you can always ask me on Discord, send me a chat, or post it on the group, right? So because of the time zone, sometimes I may not be active at that time. So someone else can always help you. So yeah, it's really going to be an exciting journey. I promise you, your data analytics journey. You just need to be consistent. You need to be open to learning as much as you can, really. And the results will definitely come out for you. So I wish you guys good luck and see you next week. Okay, thank you and bye. The recording will be posted before the end of today, or tomorrow. So thank you guys.